Talents by the San Isidro Elementary School Chamber Orchestra, the Handurao Dance Troupe, and the DepEd NCR Chamber Chorus.
Sa ibaba ng gulod, sa itaas ng ilog, may puno ng mangga. Tayo'y naglalaro ng sungka at tiko noong mga bata pa. Hanggang sa tumanda, ako'y nagbinata at ika'y nagdalaga. At do'y pagsinta sa isa't isa ay unang nadama. Saksi pa ang buwan nang maging tagpuan ang puno ng mangga. Do'y natutuhan nating pagsaluhan ang lungkot at ang saya. At nangarap ako na iregalo sa'yo sa kasal nating dalawa. Isang dampa sa gulod, isang bangka sa ilog, at isang punong mangga. Ngunit isang araw, ika'y lumisan, dagling nagunaw ang ating sumpaan. Ang balita ko, minsan ikaw ay nangibang bayan. Kapalaran mo doon na rin natagpuan. Masdan mo ngayon, wala ng dahon ang puno ng mangga. Nakaukit pa rin ang pangalan natin sa isang lumang sanga. Saan ka man naroon, giliw sana ngayon, maalwan ang buhay mo. Kung iyong kamustahin ang dating bukirin, iba na ang anyo. Kung iyong kamustahin, mag-aanim na rin aking mga apo.
Thank you very much to our musicians, dancers, and singers. Asek Tony, the last 2 days have generated so much wealth of information and knowledge on best practices in the implementation of inclusive education. I am sure that many of us are excited to go back to our respective stations, energized and raring to apply the takeaways from this conference. At this point, I would like to congratulate everyone on the success of the second National K-12 Conference.
Again, my warmest congratulations to all of you who made this possible. Lahat po ng naririto po ngayon, congratulations po sa inyong lahat. I can see in your faces renewed passion and enthusiasm Wala pong iba kung nakikita kung hindi po puro good vibes at positive energy. Totoo po ba ito? Nakasampu natin, tama po ba ito? Parang narinig ko dito, when manong. Nung mga nakaraang 2 araw, tulad po ng sinabi po ni Director Joyce po natin at ako po umikot sa ilang session rooms, nakita ko po at narinig ko po yung iba't ibang sharing na ginawa po ng ating mga delegado. At wala pong kaduda-duda, tayo pong lahat ay dapat matuwa dahil nasa tamang direksyon po tayo sa ating pong pagpapatupad ng ating K-12 Basic Education Program. The outcome of this 2-day activity is also a realization that again, we are all on the right track in the implementation of our K-12 senior high school program, particularly that portion of the K-12 law. So, without further ado, we have come to an integral part of this conference to give us a conference synthesis. I would like to call on our Undersecretary for Curriculum and Instruction, ang ating pong Undersecretary, Dina Ocampo. Palakpakan po natin lahat.
Magandang hapon. Bago po ako magsimula sa mga trabaho ko ngayong hapon, iimbitahan ko sanang tumayo saglit yung mga nag-birthday kahapon at ngayon. Sa buong buhay nyo, ngayon lang kayo kakantahan ng 1,400 people. Everybody, dito kayo sa harap. Dito kayo sa harap. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday. Thank you. Pasensya na po, wala kaming cake na kayang ipakain sa lahat ng bisita. Picturean nyo, picturean nyo. Oo. Kenya, thank you. Sir, thank you. I think that no duty is more urgent than that of giving and returning thanks. And it is my happy honor to just ask you to acknowledge the work that has been put in by the people who pulled off the conference. First and foremost, to all the personnel of the DepEd Central Office, may I please ask you to stand up? Nasaan kayo? Thank you. To the members of my office, si Cynthia, si Tring, si Bani, Roel, Junette, and Naomi, wherever you are in the crowd, thank you for always having our backs. To the personnel from the regional and schools division offices, thank you for sending your best papers and presenters and reactors. Ma'am Liling, I would like to introduce to you, ma'am, everybody, kung pwede niyo po silang tingnan sa likod, could all the presenters please stand up so Ma'am Liling can see you all. Sa lahat po ng reactors, magsitayo po kayo at magpakilala. Moderators, please. Moderators, please stand up. Pati execom natin, moderators and execom session leaders. Bagay, kilala na kayo ni Ma'am Liling. Oo. Alright. The documenters, please. These are... And the lead bureau that worked on this conference is the Bureau of Learning Delivery under the leadership of Marilet Almeida. And though she is not with us, the Chief of the Teaching and Learning Division, Rose Villanesa. She hurt her foot in a freak accident and is unable to join us. Ma'am Liling, they are the people who worked on this conference. Thank you for your support, Secretary. It's also my duty, ma'am, to share with you the synthesis of the conference, of the sessions. And we begin with just a little bit of a reminder on our vision. We dream of Filipinos who passionately love their country and whose values and competencies enable them to realize their full potential and contribute meaningfully to building the nation. As a learner-centered public institution, the Department of Education continuously improves itself to better serve its stakeholders. And our conference is one way by which we improve ourselves. In our mission, we aim to protect and promote the right of every Filipino to quality, equitable, culture-based, and complete basic education where students learn in a child-friendly, gender-sensitive, safe, and motivating environment, where teachers facilitate learning and constantly nurture every learner, where administrators and staff, as stewards of the institution, ensure an enabling and supportive environment for effective learning to happen, and where family, community, and other stakeholders are actively engaged and share responsibly in the responsibility for developing lifelong learners. The reason that we are here is because we would like to provide national or regional updates on the K-12 implementation, to discuss other issues, challenges, and concerns in relation to identified themes, to highlight and share innovations and interventions that cut across the K-12 programs, and hopefully, when you all go back to your stations, to apply what you've learned here, the insights that you can take away, and the best practices, most importantly, and see whether they fit your own contexts and whether they will improve the delivery of education nationwide. It's that kind of leadership that we like, a leadership that in education that looks at the data, looks at the evidence, and takes it forward from there. And I believe that our leadership in the DepEd for the last siguro mga 10 years in the department has been consistent in its reform programs. And I think that this has made the department much stronger than it has been in previous decades. And I think we owe this to the leaders in the field, and we request you to be the kind of leader that you would follow. There are a lot of young superintendents and sige na nga, young regional directors. And I think that this is this synergy with those who are, ano ba tawag ng BLD? Batikan. Yung mga mas batikan na leader sa ating field. No? They are, this interaction with new batches of leaders, I think is very important. And today, one of the moderators was telling me that he was completely amazed at how well the principals who were here as reactors were giving insights to the presentations. So I think this kind of talk and this kind of discourse is very important in lifting the quality of discussion in the department. Just to continue, we started off with a reminder of teachers and of who we are, why we teach, and this kicked us off on a very positive note. Thank you to Secretary's keynote speech for that. But ma'am, we also want to share with you who are here. No? Those of us who are here we are more than 1,155 regional delegates. There are 74 from Region 1, 49 from Region 2, 104 from Region 3, 104 from 4A, 38 from 4B, 69 from 5, 43 from 6, 74 from 7, 69 from Region 8, 42 from Region 9, 72 from Region 10, 54 from 11, 53 from 12, 40 from DepEd-ARM, 42 from the Cordillera Administrative Region, 62 from Caraga, 83 from NCR, and also 83 from NIR. But there are also 64 presenters amongst them, 64 reactors, 48 session managers, 32 moderators, 18 regional directors, 121 superintendents. Oh, well, some of them are not here. There are 12 execom session leaders, 38 documenters, 17 usherettes, 7 Boy Scouts, 71 dancers, musicians, and singers. And then we have more than 147 invisibles who worked on the technical working groups, the drivers, the administrative staff, the photographers and videographers the people from Brain Computers, winner talaga kayo, grabe kayo, Brain Computers, salamat. The people from Via Mare who have fed us so well and too much. PICC staff, security team and management, thank you very much. We couldn't have been confident in doing our work if the schools division of Pasay and Parañaque, and of course yung buong NCR, thank you for sending us your medical team, and of course the performers and the scouts. As of last night, when we had our debriefing, I am told that we only had 2 medical issues, one with an allergy and one with a little bit of high blood pressure, na bumaba naman daw after presentation. Ang dami pong nanginginig kahapon sa kanina. Mga nanginginig na boses. Okay. All right. Then, what we also tried to do was to be clear in what we would communicate to the leaders of the department in Central as well as in the field. Mostly the point of view that great leaders don't really set out to be a leader. Great leaders set out to make a difference. It's never about the role, it's always about the goal. And that goal in the last few days has been to turn into action what is so easy to say, which is that we are trying to be inclusive in our education system, but also inclusive in the processes that we do together. Participatory is inclusive. And this was done, ma'am, through the program content that was decided upon by the regions who selected their own speakers and reactors. So thank you very much to the regions who handled the quality of the presentations. This was vetted together with the Bureau, which had an academic committee or a papers committee that looked at the abstracts and the presentations. Those who submitted them early, alam namin medyo gahol ang schedule, salamat sa pasensya, were able to interact with the presenters and the reactors. Those who submitted presentations and then came yesterday and today with new presentations, sorry, we couldn't let you use your brand new presentations because we hadn't been able to vet them for time. You know, the DepEd people are very, very excited. For a 10-minute presentation, they brought 75 slides, right? Or they brought a 15-minute video. And it was a happy problem, so to speak, because we knew that people really wanted to share, which is the main point of everything. But unfortunately, we didn't have enough time for all of that. So I beg your understanding and maybe your patience in what we had to do, which was to referee the length of presentations. This is also inclusive because the presentations, the conference process had everyone share their thoughts and experiences in the last 2 days, beginning with the secretary. So after the keynote, everybody had the chance to talk. Everybody had the chance to share. I bumped into people in the corridor and they would tell me, kulang yung 1 minute per question, Teacher Dina, kulang. We want to answer the question more. We want to say more things. But you know, it's very expensive here in the PICC. And we cannot stay longer than we should. And I think that what we need to do is to probably take this away and make your own version of it, where more people in the field can discuss, closer to the ground, closer to the schools, and closer to learners. We also want to remind you of the K-12 monitoring and evaluation framework that we've been using, at least in curriculum and instruction, in partnership with planning. That what we tried to do in the sessions was to try and see whether we could generate information that would fill in the boxes that in the framework. For example, are our learners turning out to be well-rounded, happy, and smart? Are they in school? Number one, are they in school or in learning centers? Second, do they have access to programs that are responsive to their needs and consistent with their interests and aptitudes? Are learners actively participating in a learner-friendly environment? And are they able to complete education and attain learning standards? We also wanted to look at the enabling environments. For example, do education leaders and managers practice participatory and inclusive processes, management processes? So in the discussion of best practices, one of the things that we were looking for was whether these activities were inclusive. We also looked at whether we could find amongst those that shared issues on investments in basic education so that we could provide learners with ideal learning environments. We also tried to see whether people, internal systems, and processes serve learners better through continuous improvement efforts. And finally, are we able to engage with stakeholders actively so that we can collaborate to serve learners better? And using this framework and being faithful to that framework, we're quite happy to share with you the results of your hard work and the distillation of your stories and narratives care of the documentation committee. Yan po yung committee na hindi pa po natutulog mula nung nagsimula yung conference. Sige po. So for kindergarten, we are told that best practices include the feeling of confidence that a policy cover or policy covers provide. Having a policy on kindergarten education that hopefully will, I promise you, will become more consistent in terms of the age of the kindergarten student. What we do know is that there are several divisions that said that because of the policy that enables them and that gives them some freedom to implement their own teacher education programs or their own instructional interventions, what happened is that they're able to justify their actions. And I think the more that we read into our policies for curriculum and instruction, and the more we should be able to find what frees us from the usual DepEd order that is very authoritative. What we would like is something that is more enabling. And we hope that your own regional and division memos will be the same. For curriculum and instruction, best practices include the use of the mother tongue as the language of teaching and learning. The effort to get teachers to strictly adhere to blocks of time for their classes. Learning activities organized into thematic units, which is different from the teaching guide, and which is wonderful that it is different from the teaching guide, because that means that units or field offices are contextualizing curriculum and instruction. The application of differentiated instruction and the provision of enhancement classes for learners with special needs. For learning resources, we have the following best practices that are being operationalized in various divisions: production of localized materials, the provision of adequate LRs and LMs using their own resources. For teachers, there's a lot, and there's a repeating theme across the levels on using learning action cells to strengthen the teachers' competencies and content knowledge. There are also a lot of training workshops and so on. Sige. For learner support, one of the most important interventions, and it's happening in more than one place, a few places even, is the feeding program. And this is what is also important in keeping children in school. Ganun din yung child-friendly school systems and the safety and cleanliness of schools. For school leadership and management, mentioned were best practices that include the regular monitoring and observation of classes. And I hope that this is instructional leadership more than administrative leadership, no? Looking at how well lessons are delivered. And I think hanggang ngayon mahalaga talaga yung home visitation so that families will send their young children to school. Early registration is a very strong good practice apparently, including yung pulong sa barangay. And this allowed them to bring their children to school. For advocacy, there's a lot of celebration of learners. Demonstration, teaching festival, kindergarten day, resource exhibit was initiated, and festival of talents among kindergarten kids. For community involvement and partnerships, I think it's important to highlight that the collaboration and the engagement of stakeholders was able to bring kids to school and to improve daycare centers also. And the training of kindergarten teachers who are slowly moving from being kindergarten volunteers to teachers talaga ng DepEd. I think that one of the nicest feedbacks I received was from Yusek Alain last night. Yusek Alain joined us in our debriefing last night. And he said that, when he went into his session hall and then he said, na kindergarten to, anong malay ko dito? Diba? Wala naman itong construction of classroom dito sa kindergarten. But he came out of it knowing a little bit more about it. And I think this is a very positive thing. Yusek Vicky at the end of her session, and a little bird told me that you closed your session saying you learned so much from everybody else in your session. And we truly appreciate that. That interaction works always, not just both ways, but always. And I think that this is an important point of view to take away, because we bring this little best practices. We didn't have enough time to go through all the best practices, no. But some of the regions or some of the divisions and presenters showed us or mentioned that they could identify results or they could attribute certain results to these best practices. For example, they feel that they have been able to promote a love of reading among kindergarten students, that the needs of learners with special needs were met. There's 0 dropout rate in their kindergarten. And the teacher skills on ICT, instructional materials production, teaching strategies were improved or enhanced. And syempre, that they're trying to get a better implementers to have a better understanding of the policy. I think that good leaders of education work with what they have, diba? They don't blame the tools that they are given, though in some of the sessions, I heard some blaming, mabagal yung downloading, magulo yung age, totoo naman yun, magulo talaga. Magulo yung age ng kindergarten enrollment, pero true yun, true lalu. Um, ayos na po. Okay. Uh, di ba? Okay. And then, but good leaders of education, they don't blame these things. What they do is they sharpen the tools that they are handed, ba? And you work with what we've got. And I think this is a very important thing to carry through from kindergarten. We want to keep the children in kindergarten. The likelihood of them finishing until grade 3 is very high if they have kindergarten education. So we put together grades 1 to 6, no? Interventions, grades 1 to 6 for best practices in inclusive education. And what we've tried to do is to put together interventions, not just for the usual schools, but also for those kinds of systems that are alternative. So, sama-sama siya dito sa presentation. So, for curriculum and instruction, the designed curriculum that allows teacher to cater to the needs of both Muslim and Christian learners. This designed curriculum or revised curriculum is a product of the work of an SDO. And I think this is very important because this shows that there is that confidence to work with and contextualize curriculum at the ground level. Program K3, Kaklase Kasama Kita, for Muslim learners, is one of the best practices that was mentioned. Contextualized, localized, indigenized curriculum, differentiated instruction for multi-grade classes, curriculum modification that suits learning styles and abilities of kids with special needs, implemented various modes, Kariton, module-based learning, i-impact, Misosa. Dun sa isang group, they were talking about the EASE modules among the learning resources that they used, and a lot of talk on contextualization and how they used self-paced materials for inclusion. For teachers, they have a project called Angat Asatids to improve communication skills and competencies and pedagogies, because syempre yung alive natin, di ba, is Arabic language and Islamic values. So they need to improve in both areas, not just in the language part. The LAC sessions for professional development, again, this is a recurring theme. Recurring theme yan eh. Differentiated instruction, contextualization, and LAC sessions. The discussion of challenges encountered in multi-grade classes during training workshop. And this is important because then there is a discussion of these difficulties. Training for a wider range of learner needs, exceptionalities, and recognition of efforts of SPED teachers through merits and award systems. For learner support, there's ICT training for adult Muslim learners, summer class tutorials for both challenged and advanced Muslim students, identification, preparation, establishment of catchment secondary schools for learners with special needs, and catch-up programs across all levels. In the session of Yusek Muyot, he had to do an instant professorial lecture on what inclusion is. I think that there was a tendency for us to think that inclusion was only for special needs or special ed. And Yusek Muyot was clarified quite passionately with his session that includes all of us. When we talk about inclusion, it includes all learners and whether they are with special needs or not. Di ba ang sarap nun pag yung USEC for legal, parang USEC for curriculum and instruction, di ba? Parang nakakakilig, di ba? Parang gano'n. School leadership and management, there's a lot of conduct of PTA meetings for grades 1 to 6 for inclusion, holding of divisions, festival of talents on MTB MLE, anchored on SDO's initiated Project REAL, which is Read and Enjoy Adopted Language, conducted capacity building in school implementers of special programs. I'm sure marami pa yung iba na hindi namin na-capture, but these are examples of what is working for our schools. Advocacies for Muslim parents aimed at increasing the appreciation of the madrasa program, division and region musabaka. We had the national one, the first national musabaka. Panalo DepEd Arm doon sa national musabaka. Nasa mga taga DepEd Arm? Are you still here? Yun. Yan ang mga nanalo sa first national musabaka. Congratulations. The participation of learners and special needs in regional, national, international educational athletic competitions. For community involvement and partnerships, it's also a recurring theme, yung cultural mapping or yung community mapping of learners. It's happening not only in ALS, it's happening in SPED, it's happening in other areas, no? And I think that one of the best practices is the involvement of elders, whether IP or Muslim elders in the community, in the advocacy programs for education, and continued dialogue, again, on curriculum also. Part of the results that were reported is that in grades 1 to 6, learners have an opportunity to learn the Arabic language and Islamic values because of the Alive program, and the other variations of the Alive program that they have already done. The curriculum contextualization sustained the interest of learners. And this is important, I think, kasi we continue with the mother tongue-based instruction in grades 1, 2, and 3. Elders and communities appreciate the integration of indigenous knowledge, systems, and practices in the curriculum, and the training provided enhanced teacher skills in classroom management, instruction, and communication. Furthermore, may increased enrollment. I mean, yan, happiness talaga yan, di ba? I'm sure that Roger Masapol will be very happy about increased enrollment and more children staying in school. Increased promotion rate in elementary and secondary levels. Nahalo yung secondary, pero okay yun. Decreased dropout. Increased in awareness of needs of learners with special needs. Better performance of teachers when efforts are recognized. We have many of our divisions and regions doing recognition of their best of the best teachers every year. Learners gain confidence with their differences and abilities and talents when they are recognized and showcased, and learners feel they are accepted and they belong in their community. And this is these are important results, no? And I think that the push that comes with making inclusive education the banner of K-12, one of the difficult things we had to do for K-12 was to look at the law and look at all the adjectives that was in the law. And inclusive ed is one of the hardest one to operationalize. Madali kasi yung research-based curriculum. Madali yun because you bring in the curriculum specialist, the subject area specialist, and they'll tell you what's research-based content and competencies that every grade 10 physics student should know. But in terms of inclusion, this is not done simply by writing a curriculum. This is done by actual implementation of programs that are sensitive to differences in people and communities. And I think this kind of effort by our field personnel to implement programs such as this shows us that they recognize the interventions done in schools, and that they're actually leading from the back, pushing from the back, pushing inclusion, so that those who are in the front, meaning the teachers in the front, in front of children 5 days a week, 4 weeks a month, they're the ones in the front lines of education. And those who are leaders, those of you who are here, you should just continue pushing for inclusive education and be inclusive in your processes as well as you push others to be inclusive. The junior high school best practices in inclusive education again carry a similar theme. It's still contextualization, it's localization of the curriculum and indigenization, curriculum modification for learners with special needs. This becomes more difficult because the special needs children are older. And so it would be transition programs. And we're not that successful here, not as a DepEd, but more as a community, or because there are very few opportunities for special needs children to work or to have jobs in stores or in shops, because they're not the priority hires of any business enterprise. And I think that this curriculum modification will only be successful if there at the end of the other end are opportunities for special needs children to actually work and live freely in communities. The basic literacy program for adults is also very important, and the intensification of the Balik Eskwela program. Yung radio-based instruction is also very important for junior high school because it entices children to come back to school or to join ALS. For learning resources, let me just go back to that. I think that it's important now, we are at that point when we really need to clarify what are the policies, what are the ages of children who will go, or learners who will go to ALS and ADMs, and then formal school, because these things need clarification. However, that need was articulated in one of the sessions, and we need to work on that. No? And I think that this is the next frontier for the clarification of ALS and K-12, because these two systems must communicate and must coexist. In learning resources, virtual classrooms for ALS learners, preparation of supplementary instructional materials, and again, tingnan nyo, it's contextualization, localization, and indigenization. Those who are in the CLMD workshops know that we've been trying to clarify this and trying to allow this to happen through our LRMDS. Teachers, systematic training to integrate real-life scenarios and applications for junior high school is very important, because the more relevant junior high school is to a teenager, the more likely they will stay in school. And I think that teachers' training and capability building is very, very strongly needed here. We need to continue training teachers on content. We know this for a fact because we've been trying to run the K-12 training programs for the last few years, and teachers always say, we want to learn more math, we want to learn more algebra, we want to learn more calculus, we want to learn more literature, and so on. And I think we need to respond to this. We should probably stop teaching teachers how to teach, but actually teach teachers more on content. For learner support, ang dami, no? Initiated school-based programs to reduce dropout, because as you can see, this kind of reporting on junior high school about keeping students in school, this tells us that the Department of Education leadership and field personnel know that the problem is here in terms of dropouts. And I think we should continue to keep our eye on the ball and to focus and to solve these issues. No? So these are some of the programs that were shared on reducing dropouts among junior high school students. And then for leadership and management, meron silang mobilized or mobile school-based support teams, so that the division can go to schools and provide technical assistance. I think that the term technical assistance or quality assurance occurred many times over the last 2 days, and that we are beginning to recognize that our schools require help from the SDOs and the ROs, but this kind of help should not be to be in the same traditional supervision point of view, but rather in the provision of technical assistance so that programs can improve and services to children and learners can be better. For advocacy, they have a lot of things, no, that they do. Some of them naman are done by everybody. For example, the fun runs or the awards, these are done by many people. Yung Wide Cane Day is done by, is a DepEd order done nationally. But the fact that some report it means that it is more prominent where they are. And that's part of their programming. Sige. For community involvement and partnerships, you can also see that there's a focus on LGUs na. Because when one of the jokes that we were telling this morning was that one of the sessions I went to said that in the LIS, there's a need to clean up the LIS. Narinig ko yung isang planning officer. There's a need to clean up the LIS because what about the dead people in the LIS? Sabi ko, akala ko sa election lang may patay dun sa listahan. Pati pala sa LIS, may patay sa listahan. So we need to clean up the LIS, no? Because we need to be able to imagine all possible scenarios. For example, there are children who are in school, they're in the LIS, and they end up sick. And so they're in hospital. And if they're in hospital, they're branded already as dropout. Dapat yon naka-ADM, di ba? And that school actually brings materials if the child is able to work on ADM materials. And I think this kind of, ito yung sinasabi ko that we're entering this frontier of bringing education to the more difficult contexts, to the more difficult challenges, rather than just thinking about school-based education. There are efforts to construct separate school buildings for ALS learners. Merong usaping kaperahan. Other perks for learners like free flash drives, free internet access. I know several LGUs that actually do this. Provision of scholarships from private persons for adults and learners with special needs. Because of the confluence, no, it's never one intervention, but because of the confluence of interventions in various places, they're able to report increased enrollment, school participation. They're able to produce champions in regional and national level competitions. And this is because they're advocating the special interest programs. Improved teachers' competence and school leadership. And they've created models of success in classrooms and schools and communities. The involvement of LGUs becomes more prominent, no, even. But it's really constant from kindergarten to senior high school. The importance of the LGU is always mentioned. No? There's also increased awareness of the community on ALS, the increased probability of employment for learners, increased number of A&E passers, and those who avail test the courses. So the advocacy for adult education is actually working. Learning becomes more exciting. A richer pool of LMs to choose from. Hopefully, some of them are from the central office also. Learners and graduates are tracked. Ito yung kanina na sinasabi ko, the tracking of learners is a constant also. And reliable data is available. And I think that the awareness of data about learners coming out in the sessions is because we have our planning officers with us, but more importantly because I think there is always a need for us to justify how we spend the money. In another session, RD Malcolm was telling me that what the regions need is a kitty. It's a certain amount of money so that programs can be developed at the regional level. And of course, all the other RDs said yes, that one. Diba? And so I think that is the way to go. That is the way to go. I think in an education system that is this huge, I think that we should not be wonderful fans of centralization, but rather we should look at how to decentralize certain aspects, but that still stick to standards, at least in terms of learning outcomes or what we promise we will deliver for our learners. No? So, sabi ko nga, great leaders, they see the money, but they don't see it as a destination. They see it as the fuel that is required for them to create programs for their learners. Senior high school programs and learning environment and governance. Ang haba nito, I will invite you to read because this is the newest thing. Sige lang. Curriculum and instruction, ensuring better distribution of program offerings per district. I think this is very important. Up to now, those of us who are working with the senior high school focal persons of regions, we know that the changes in programming are continuing. the implementation of a unified subject offering. This one is Region 6 yata, if I am not mistaken. I don't know, I was in that session. I think si Ruel Bermejo was the one who mentioned it. And that there are other regions that also adopted some sort of unified offering, so that if students move from one place to another or one school to another, they're able to minimize having to offer subjects all over again. In the next slide, it's about learning resources. Schools used available lumber to make improvised benches and tables for learners' use. I know that in certain regions, Alan Fernasa was telling me that the STVEP schools made the furniture for some of the senior high schools, and I think it's amazing. The utilization of LGUs, conference hall, libraries, barangay halls as SHS classrooms, because the construction was either delayed or had to be stopped because of typhoons. SHS borrowed owner-type vehicles to facilitate the teaching of automotive servicing. Sinoli kaya nila, hindi ko alam. Okay. And then they shared best practices and teaching materials via Facebook and Google Hangout. Sa learning resources, it had to do with the reproduction of LMs and TGs. For teachers, the continued challenge of training, because we never know how many will be trained for what, diba? Because of the variation in the program offerings. And so a lot of that had to be done by regions. The use of the e-tool for efficient class monitoring was mentioned. Thank you very much. This was the work of the regional ops people. And then also the guidance on how to redeploy excess teachers, junior high school teachers, to teach senior high school courses based on their specialization. Sige. Marami pa po yan sa teachers because hiring was a challenge. Some people I heard somebody saying that they hired teachers, but the civil service said you can't hire them because they don't have all the qualifications required. So what they did was to work with the LGU so they could send these teachers to get the training needed, the TM needed, so they could hire them eventually. And that kind of affirmative action allowed them to keep these teachers they wanted to hire, and they needed these teachers, and help them get the qualifications so they could be appointed. That kind of problem solving, I think, done in local communities, that was particularly in Santiago. I think that was very important because it solved their problem. There was no need to write my office and say, what am I gonna do? They just solved the problem. And I think that this is very important to remember. Sige. For learner support, we continue to do the Pedals and Paddles program, the transportation and meal allowance for senior high school students. Amazing yung dormitories, that the dormitories for learners coming from remote places, supported by LGUs and private individuals. Collaboration with the Association of the Private Basic Education Schools, because they lobbied, and you know, I really have to thank you for lobbying so vigorously to reduce or remove top-up fees. So thank you for that, because this allowed us to have a more diverse program offering for senior high school in various municipalities or cities. Radyo Rachada, airtime through radio program, and K-12 caravans, these continued. The construction of additional classrooms, science labs, and so on. I get a lot of pictures from Facebook, and thank you for sending me PMs of school equipment being delivered or classrooms being turned over or inaugurated. And though you did not report some of those, I know them personally because you share them with me in your free time. Because of these interventions and the synergy, learners are enrolled in their preferred programs. Ideal class size and student ratio were achieved according to some SDOs. The shortage of classrooms were addressed by working with other schools or the SUC or the LGU. teaching load was maximized such that there were no underloaded or overloaded teachers in the school. This was easy to do when the school was a grown-up, di ba? Meron tayong grow-up high schools that are junior high schools who grow up into senior high schools. That was a little bit easier to do. For standalone senior high schools, that's a little bit harder to do kasi wala ka namang i-distribute na load, no? Teachers were able to write modules and LMs based on their experiences. I met a few teachers in the sports program in Ormoc, and they were very proudly showing me their ARNIS modules. Parang ganun, okay. LMs were made available to both teachers and learners, and schools became more accessible. The additional schools in island places, no, or very remote places, something we're still working on. But because they are being flagged by divisions and regions, I think is very important because this allows us better planning. For the area on partnerships and linkages, we were fortunate to have been helped by the office of ASEC Tony because he had his staff going around the sessions to help answer or to provide technical assistance during sessions on partnerships and linkages. For school leadership and management, some divisions initiated regular meetings with district coordinators in charge of partnership and networking. They implemented a transparency system for any and all transactions relating to the SHS. And I think this is very important because it allows the partners easy access to the information as to where their support went. And that's really important. They conducted constant monitoring and evaluation in schools to be able to report to partners that their efforts were actually going to their intended recipients. Conducted sports activities, fun run. Hindi ko nga alam kung ano tong Zumba run. Ipapademonstrate yan natin mamaya. What is a Zumba run? Okay? And others to generate funds. Next. Included private schools in division activities. And I think there are a lot of divisions that did this, no? That whenever they had the senior high school meeting, it was instantly a meeting together with the private schools. And this made their programming much easier. They also conducted school-to-school partnership training, conducted workshop, conference, symposia, fora, and so on. And then some of them even went and did benchmarking in other provinces. I know because I talk to the modeling school principals quite often. And they tell me that, Ma'am, alam mo, pagod na kami kasi ang daming school na pumupunta dito nagbe-benchmark ng senior high school. So the modeling schools are like Exhibit A, B, and C, and living showcases or living social experiments of senior high school, and that they are able to discuss with teachers who actually taught senior high school already, or principals who actually instituted senior high school already before 2016. And some of them went to other countries also to look at how they do senior high school. For advocacy, tuloy-tuloy, mga favorite natin dyan, if you remember last year, yung mga tricycle caravan, di ba? Mga padjak caravan. Kasi hindi naman pwede yung kotse pumasok sa Eskinita. No? So their K-12 caravans were bicycles, no, or tricycles. The continued advocacy in the LGU and the local school boards. The dissemination of information through various media, distribution of advocacy and campaign materials. For community involvement and partnerships, the best practices included established partnerships with the various LGUs, SUCs. Ano talaga yan? Recurring theme yan. Ganyan kahalaga ang interaction with LGUs sa DepEd. No? They conducted municipal industry mapping to identify possible partners in private schools. I think that now we are moving from looking for partners that will deliver senior high school. We already know who they are. We already know who will continue to offer it, who will not. We know also already we finally have data on how senior high school programs are thriving in various places. And so our efforts are now on work immersion, where our students will spend their work immersion time when they do that part of their senior high school program. And I think the partnerships will refocus on this. And next year, it would be nice to hear about what you did to open up avenues of work immersion and internship for our students in grade 12. Resulting from all of these interventions are some results that were mentioned: increased enrollment in SHS, large percentage of the total enrollment in private schools received a voucher, provided scholarship grants, teachers received training, financial assistance for building and repair of schools, received donations from partners, well-informed stakeholders and the public regarding senior high school. Private schools agreed to have no top-up, which is good news, or minimal top-up. And partners agreed to share resources and facilities for work immersion and research of senior high school students. And last two na lang, SUCs and LUCs served as the reservoir of, ito, good news sa atin, bad news sa kanila, okay? As reservoir for SHS teacher applicants. Because a lot of faculty and teachers from the private sector actually moved to the Department of Education. And then there's a renewed commitment of partners. Partners has only one S, okay? All right. Okay, it's not perfect. Okay. Now, I think that at the end of today, we are confident in being able to share all these interventions of K-12. If you remember the last time we had the K-12 conference, it was only about senior high. But now we are talking about the entire K-12 spectrum. And people were saying there's not enough time. So maybe we will have to reconsider how we do these things. It's very large and it's a lot of work. And I think that what we need to be able to share with everyone is that we have to keep in mind that we need to recognize that, ano yung sabi nila? We need to recognize that the road to quality education can only be met by having a one DepEd that is putting together or implementing diverse programs, because the Filipino people are a diverse people. And so we cannot continue to be just pushing for one kind of curriculum or one kind of learning material. What we need to be doing is celebrating the diversity that we have. But because we are hitting our goals or going towards our goals, we are confident. Ang sabi nga nila, kung walang hadlang, malamang walang patutunguhan, di ba? So the fact that we are sharing these issues here and sharing with each other how we solve them, I know, because the experience last time was the same, I know that some of you will take away these solutions, these best practices, and find a way to implement it in your places. For a final word, I would like to just say that, you know, in this world, we need people who work more than criticize, who construct more than destroy, who make fewer promises and deliver more solutions, and who expect to give more than they receive, and who can actually say with confidence that it's better today than tomorrow. So it's good to see you all. Thank you for being here. Thank you for working so hard to make quality presentations. And I hope that you all have a safe journey home. Thank you.
Marami pong salamat, Yusek Dina Ocampo. Palakpakan po natin muling lahat. I would like to share with all of you that all presentations in this conference, the reports that our dear Yusek Dina just presented can be accessed via our deped.gov.ph website after this week. That should mean Monday, right? Monday next week. Okay, now to lead us in our reaffirmation of commitment, we would like to call on our dear Undersecretary for Legal Affairs, Undersecretary Alberto Muyot. Palakpakan po natin.
Okay. Will this be flashed on the screen? Okay. The reaffirmation of commitment. Okay, tumayo po tayong lahat. Okay. Sorry po, nawala po yung boses ko sa kasi-synthesize. Okay. Ilalagay po ba sa screen ito o makikita? Yan. Okay. So, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, state your name, do wholeheartedly affirm my support to the full implementation of the K-12 basic education program today and in the succeeding years to come. As an ambassador and advocate of education reform, I will strengthen my commitment to inclusive education, ensuring that no learner is left behind. I will safeguard the learner's rights and interests by continuously delivering quality, accessible, relevant, and liberating basic education, and by providing a suitable environment conducive for lifelong learning. I will ensure that the best practices in the actual implementation of K-12 will be emulated in every school in the country. I will remain faithful to the vision, mission, and core values of the Department of Education. So help me God. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, Yusek Muyot. I believe that everyone present here would like to say that our word is our bond. So at this point, we would like to invite you all to take a look back on what transpired in the last 2 days of this historic second National K-12 Conference.
Thank you very much, Marilet, for the detailed description of my 76-year-old life.
Indeed, what a wonderful 2 days it has been for all of us. At ngayon po upang formal na isara ang ating ikalawang K-12 National Conference, tinatawagan po natin ang ating pong pinakamamahal na kalihim ng ating kagawaran ng edukasyon, kagalang-galang na kalihim, Leonor Magtolis Briones. Palakpakan po natin si Ma'am Liling po natin.
Magandang hapon, good afternoon sa inyong lahat. I already said what I wanted to say yesterday. So this time I will just make a few remarks. It has been a wonderful journey, as I predicted yesterday, for all of us for the past 2 days. I wanted to attend and sit in on the workshops because the topics were so interesting, but I had other duties in Malacanang, so I missed I think the meat of our event this afternoon and also yesterday. First, congratulations to Dina, her staff, members of the EXICOM, and all who slaved, and worked very, very hard to make this event a success. Only DepEd of all public agencies and government can mix theory, practice, and of course the traditional literary and musical pieces. Walang ganong mga intermissions ang ibang mga agencies. Kayang-kaya lang yan ng DepEd. Kahapon tuwang-tuwa ako nung na watching the binasuan ng mga bata. Dahil nung bata pa kami, so some things do not change. Nung bata pa kami, tinuro din yun sa amin, pinapractice din yun. Ilang baso ang nababasag namin sa kakalagay sa ulo at sa kamay. Pero yung paglagay namin ng baso ay yung nakaganon para sigurado talaga nakaganon yung daliri. Yung nung mga panahon na yan. And of course, I loved the singing. I like the Boy Scouts because nung bata pa ako, may Boy Scouts na din. And kanina sabi ko kay Dina, kailangan pigilan niya ako kasi baka aakyat ako nung kumanta na ang NCR chamber chorus, the chamber choral. Yan, importanteng bahagi yan because yung mga sinasabi sa ating mga fora, ating mga lectures, etc., nasasabi very quickly in just a few seconds yung kantang huli na galing kay Ryan Cayabyab. Nasama-sama, tayo ay nagkakaisa, one DepEd, parang ang talagang tagos sa puso ang mga numbers na dinagdag in addition to all the substantive presentations. Tuwang-tuwa din ako dahil alam naman natin, maraming mga national conferences na nangyayari, pero ito ay actually mga shopping conferences. Tuwan-tuwa ako na at least walang mga nakahalera diyang nagtitinda ng kung ano-ano. Minsan nag-attend ako ng conference na pinasalita ako. Ilang libo daw na tao ang nag-attend, pero siguro walang 50 katao na sa loob. Lahat na sa labas kasi sa hotel, napakaraming tinda na nagsa-shopping lahat. At saka walang nakikinig. Kaya ang ginawa ko noon, dahil walang nakikinig sa mga nagsasalita, ang ginawa ko noon, let us stand up and pray. So lahat tahimik at lahat tumayo. But DepEd is very, very special. We do the things that we teach, how things should be done. Ginagawa natin. So congratulations sa lahat. I'm very sure hindi lamang mga increased learnings and sharings and mga nakakaiyak, nakakatuwa ng mga istorya na naririnig ninyo, but very substantive, critical, and seryoso din. So talagang malaman, hindi lang yung tinatawag nilang mga ampaw conferences and meetings na palaging nangyayari araw-araw maski sa lugar na ito at saka sa mga ibang mga sites. Mayroon lang akong suggestion dahil maski wala akong naririnig ko naman, bibigyan ako ng feedback kung anong nangyayari sa mga workshops. Napakaganda at napaka-inspiring ng mga istorya. Yung sinasabi ko about being innovative, being creative, not being afraid, yun, kinikwento yan sa mga istorya na binibigay ninyo at sinishare ninyo sa isa't isa. And I hope na sana i-pass on ninyo yan sa inyong mga estudyante. Mayroon lang akong suggestion pa. Siguro yun ang privilege ng secretary, panay suggestion ng suggestion. Tapos kayo naman panay gawa ng gawa. Una, ay dina-download na yung proceedings. Pero there are still those, including myself, dina-download na, makita ninyo sa website. Pero there are those, sabi ko nga, kasama na ako, na gusto ko talaga yung hawakan mo yung dokumento, binabasa mo, lagyan mo ng notes sa tagiliran. So I would suggest na the first and second conferences should be published and printed para malagay sa library at saka mas convenient. At saka, siyempre, matutuwa naman kayo, makikita ninyo mga pangalan ninyo, makita ninyo mga remarks ninyo, and so on, para mayroon tayong sense of continuity kung anong nangyayari. Kasi hindi naman lahat types na types yung yung mag-ano sa electronic, sa technology, no? Ako talaga mas gusto kong talagang hinahawakan ko yung binabasa ko kasi nagme-make notes and so on. At saka paulit-ulit mo yang babasahin. Another suggestion is, kung pwede, kung ma-afford natin at the regional level, kung pwede sana na magkaroon tayo ng eco seminar. Kasi we are 1,000, over 1,000 here, no, but we must remember na ang teachers natin ay more than 600,000, kung sama pa yung mga non-teaching staff, and so on, aabot tayo ng more than 700,000. So, maganda kung ma-echo sana natin kung tayo ay magkaroon ng mga regional conferences. Siguro 1 or 2 papers can be presented and shared para yung hindi nagkaroon ng good fortune to be in PICC and to participate in this really very stimulating workshops and exchange of ideas will somehow have a picture. At saka yung enthusiasm ninyo, yung inspiration ninyo, ma-share naman nila pag-uwi ninyo. So, yun ang aking suggestion also. Ano pa kayang may utos ko? Yun, yung sinasabi ko, eco conferences at the regional level. Tapos, maski videos, lahat-lahat na paraan na para natin ma-spread ang gospel ng K-12 quality basic education and all that it entails, sana ma-share natin sa lahat. Isa din, nag-usap na kami ni GH, who's in charge of communications. Napakaganda ng mga istorya ninyo. Napaka-inspiring, whether these are unhappy or joyous. Pero lahat-lahat, ano pa rin, nagbibigay pa rin nagre-release ng ating creative juices, nagre-release ng ating courage, nag-allow us to overcome fear. Hindi na tayo naghihintay kung anong sasabihin ni Central Office. Marami sa inyo, talagang nandyan na yung sitwasyon, kumikilos na kayo sa inyong sariling sikap. And these are all very inspiring. Nag-usap kami ni GH na this is why we are interested in having it printed, is because gusto namin i-installment yan sa media. Kasi we always hear very mga stories na complain, ang hirap, marinig natin yung mga istorya ng anong nangyayari sa bansa natin, anong issues, anong dangers, anong risks. Siguro maybe we should call it the good news about education. Na by installments, mailabas natin sa media para malaman naman ng bansa na sa ating departamento, gumagawa tayo, nagtatrabaho tayo, nagre-respond tayo, nagiging creative tayo, nagiging innovative tayo, and most of all, we are joyous dahil enjoy tayo sa ginagawa natin. Yung video, yung power, ano yan, sa Bisaya tawag namin PowerPoint. Yung presentation ni Dina, yung PowerPoint presentation na which captured everything. And linista ko na dito pero hindi ko komentaryohan kasi baka mas mahaba pa kay Dina yung aking sasabihin. Tuwan-tuwa ako na nandoon si Che Guevara. Kasi yung estudyante pa kami, siya ang idol namin na pang-international. Kayong mahilig sa sine, I encourage you to watch Motorcycle Diaries. This is about the young Che Guevara. And nung bata pa kami, talagang gustong-gusto namin and we hang on to every word that he said. And so, may request ako kay Dina, bigyan mo ako ng poster with the quotation na galing kay Che Guevara. And my son is named after him, as a matter of fact. So, thank you for that, Dina. Naku, kilig na kilig ako nung nakita ko. Naalala ko nung mga panahon na ako, I was only in my 20s. Oo, na lahat kami. I had a collection of books about Che Guevara. Posters, libro, etc. Pictures niya. Ang lalaki mga blow-up pictures niya. Unfortunately, nung dumating ang martial law, ito lahat ay nawala. So, it's nice to see him. And ang ganda ng mga sinasabi niya, yung mga letters niya, ang gaganda talaga. So maybe we should have a special session on Che Guevara. And watch the movie. The movie is by Motorcycle Diaries, which stars Gael Garcia, this very, very famous Mexican actor na talagang kaganda-ganda. Now, halata ako, mahilig ako sa film, mahilig sa music. And sinabi ko na kanina, nagpapapigil na ako kasi muntik na akong aakyat at sasali sa kantahan. So, bukas uuwi na kayo o maybe mamayang gabi, uuwi na kayo. Dala na ninyo yung memories, dala na ninyo ng istorya. Kahapon I shared with you the concept of what we are as teachers and why we teach. Ngayon, I'm giving you the marching orders. Go, go, go. Sundin ninyo yung sinabi ninyo kanina sa dalawang workshops at sa mga recommendations. Maraming salamat to each and every one of you. Salamat na salamat. Tayong lahat ay isang pamilya lamang. Thank you.
Will I leave in a minute if I only could? But when she touches me, makes me feel so good. My heart's in her hands. This is sure a mess. There's no way I'll say no.
I think there is no other word to describe the remarks of the Secretary but the word uplifting. And yet also, the remarks of the Secretary remind us of one very important thing. And inasmuch as I would like to elaborate on that thing, I would just like to say, and I would just like to frame it in the words of Robert Frost, the woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to invite you to a very important activity. No DepEd activity will ever be complete without it. The mandatory picture taking. So, before we do that, may I make a couple of reminders? And let us follow these reminders. One, for a smooth flow of the picture taking, may I ask the region next to the region that I will call to line up already. We are pressed for time. Groupies and selfies will not be allowed. Hihilahin ko po kayo. Okay, so no selfies or groupie with the execom or the secretary because we need to get out of this hall at exactly 5:30. So, the order of the picture taking will be as follows. ARM will be first, led by the Regional Secretary, of course, to be followed by Region 13 and Region 12. So, may I ask ARM to please line up already to have the mandatory picture taking together with the EXICOM members. May I now ask the EXICOM members to join our good secretary here and on the stage for the picture taking. EXICOM. EXICOM members, please come up on stage to join the secretary in the picture taking.
By the time we get somewhere near Savannah, give winter the slip.
May I now call on the Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, led by their Regional Secretary, John Magno. Region 13, together with RD May Aklar, please be ready.
Under the sun, stress is undone. With every mile we travel down that highway, hot tea and songs, it won't be long till we arrive at our island hideaway. Unpack the car, see how things are. We'll roll up all of the blinds and let sunlight in. We've come a long way, a small price to pay to be together